Hi everybody, and thank you for tuning in. Today's video is all about how to be certain that you are an empath or that you have empathetic abilities. Okay, I want you to take this checklist as an all or nothing, which means if you can identify with all 8 traits, then you are 100% without a doubt an empath, and you should definitely look into tapping into your spiritual side because it'll open a lot of doors for you, and it's a good thing. Nothing to be afraid of. Okay, so without further ado, let's talk about the 8 traits to let you know for certain that you are an empath. Trait number 1. Empaths get overwhelmed in large crowds. So being overwhelmed in general is a clear trait that you can be an empath. And the reason for this is because what an empath does is an empath is a person that has the ability to feel, absorb, sense, connect with other people's feelings, emotions, vibes, all that. You pretty much, I like to call myself, I'm a sponge. I'm an energetic sponge. So when you're in a large crowd or an environment, something like a concert or, a large gathering, because there are so many different energies around you, you can get really anxious and overwhelmed and irritable and all these things. And it's because you just can't stand feeling all these different energies. And sometimes you'll get physical symptoms, like your skin will feel like there's prickles on them, like like little needles, and stuff like that, to let you know there's just, and sometimes you might feel hot or shortness of breath. It's because you're feeling too many energies at the same time. Okay, so if that's you, you could be, if you have that trait, you could be an empath. Trait number 2 is you're a highly sensitive and emotional person. Now, I can identify a lot with this one because, as my daughter likes to say, I'm a big baby. When I watch movies, I like really dive into them, and I like to watch those like hopeless romantics or those like underdog movies, or just whatever movies with messages and meanings. And sure enough, every time I watch a movie, like, oh, here's a great example, like A Dog's Purpose. You gotta watch that movie if you haven't. But movies like that, they have a really profound message. I can jump into it in the thought process of the whole message behind it, and I just bawl. You know what I mean? I just start crying like uncontrollably, or I choke up to where like it starts hurting here in my throat, because I can really connect with that emotion that the movie is delivering. And so, as an empath, if you are you're very emotional at things, and cause some people may say you're a basket case, or you're a crybaby or whatever, because you're so sensitive. You could be an empath. That's why, because those things hit you hard. You can't just walk away from deep emotions, and that's why you can connect to people very well, because you'll tend to understand them better than most, because you can connect emotionally like that, but you'll be highly sensitive. Okay, trait number 3, I wrote them down on a list, guys, so I wouldn't forget. There's actually a lot of traits. There's like infinite traits of an empath, but I chose the top 8 that are significant, that I would say 95% of empaths could relate to. Now, there are different levels of empaths, just like in any field, if you will. Like there's doctor, there's optometrist, there's different levels, different expertise, different specialties, right? So the same thing in the spiritual world. And as an empath, you could be a certain kind of empath, and I'm going to make a video breaking down the different types of empaths, but for this video here, I just want to talk about the 8 solid traits of 100% full-blown empath. Okay, trait number 3, chronic fatigue. Now, gosh, this one is probably the most one that I deal with. Like, it kind of ties into number 2, where you don't like to be in large crowd. Well, number 1, where you don't like to be in large crowds. Number 2, where you are overly sensitive. You get chronic fatigue because of dealing with all these outside energies all the time. It literally drains you, and when you get home, you just want to like sleep. And you're the type of person that can sleep for hours, and you love to sleep. Like, people ask you, what do you want to do this weekend? You're like, I just want to sleep in. And that's like heaven for you because you're so drained throughout the week that you need that sleep. There'll be times during the day that I'll be up, I'll be all fully energized, I'll, doing something, and then all of a sudden I feel like a Mack truck hit me, and I'm like, I gotta put my head down, and like 5 minutes later I'm sleeping. It's like just waves of fatigue, and they're unexplainable, but I know what they are. Obviously, either some strong energy came through, some energy vampire came through and sucked the life out of me, or I had dealt with a really strong negative energy that day, like an individual, and they just totally drained my energy, and then drained my light. And so obviously all you want to do is sleep. There are ways that you can regain your energy. See, they're tapping into nature, like going out there, and just being in nature, you get your energy back, or sleep gets your energy back. But if you have chronic fatigue and sometimes unexplainable fatigue, that's a sure sign that you could be an empath. Like I said, tie them all together. You have to have all or nothing. That's the way I roll. Some people can say, oh, I have some of those traits, but to be certain that you are an empath, you have to have all the traits. Okay? Yeah, see? Sweet Gingy agrees. Okay, trait number 4 is you are a creative person. So, you've often heard it, like a lot of people, Asperger's, autism, all these, I don't want to say disability because they're not. They're actually superpowers in my opinion. But people that are a little eclectic, a little bit different, a little bit unique, they tend to be empaths, or have some sort of spiritual ability. But if you are a creative person, which means that you love arts, the theater, you may dabble in it, you may draw, you may, all that stuff. Then you could be an empath, because a lot of empaths, they think a lot out of the right side of their brain. They're visualizers. So with me specifically, I have like a photographic memory. So when people talk to me, I see like a movie projector, so I can see kind of what's happening when you're telling me your story, and because we're visual, so yeah, if you're very creative and into the arts, music, theater, all that good stuff, then you probably are an empath. Trait number 5, we have digestive problems or mega allergies. I have all of the above. So empaths, again, because you are very connected to energies around you in the environment, and you're highly sensitive, your body takes in all that. So you feel, you're going to feel all the toxins in the air, all the junk, right? And so then the way your body's going to process it to shield itself is you're going to create stuff. You're either going to have a lot of allergies, or you're going to develop digestive problems. Now, most of the digestive problems, or most of the problems or ailments that you will inherit as an empath, is going to be in your core, in your stomach area, because that's our core. That's where most of our energy, our source power goes to. Everything's in our stomach, right? So, so things like Crohn's disease, things like bladder infections, things like, all those things, okay? So you're going to tend to have digestive problems, you're going to have allergy, just some sort of medical condition that can happen because you're an empath. Okay, number 6, you love nature and animals. That goes without saying, obviously, because you're connected. And I do believe that empaths are like really loving, we just have a huge heart, and that's one of our gifts, is having the capability to understand people, to love people, to not judge people, because we're built that way. There's purity there. The animals like to flock to positive energy, and the animals, when they see a person with those traits, are gonna surround you. So if you're an empath, you're going to notice that I call myself the beast master, which means I feel like I can talk to all animals. Now, I can't really communicate with them. They don't understand me, but in a sense, I think they do. Like, I'll talk to them like normal, and I'll make eye contact with birds and dogs and cats and whatever, and even insects. And I feel like they understand, like they hear me. So if you have a connection to animals and nature, then sure enough, you're an empath, because animals are really smart, and they're very connected to the spiritual realm. They see things we can't see. but they also flock to good energy, and empathic energies will attract animals because they feel like you can communicate with them, you understand them, and they're your protectors as well. Also, that's how you recharge when you go back to nature. And animals help you. A lot of animals are used for therapy. So you're gonna find a lot of empaths are either cat lovers or dog lovers, or they help out with animals or something like that, to that effect. Number 7. This one is my favorite, and this one is a for sure. Okay. It is a superpower, one of many superpowers, if you will, that an empath has. But you are pretty much a human lie detector. I'll say that again. Empaths can call out bullshit a mile away. You are a human lie detector. So it all ties together because you are creative, because you're a visual person, because you can sense things, feel things. You have the ability to, and you understand people very well. You know when someone is being truthful or when they're not. And it's a feeling inside. With me, when people are talking to me, as I can see a projection, I can see, their storyline, I already have arrived at the outcome. So like if we have a conversation, you start telling me a story, oh, what happened to me last week? I went to a grocery store. I already know what happened to you at the end of that story. But I'll humor you because obviously the conversation is a two-way street. So most empaths can sense the outcomes of things, but more or less they can detect whether you're telling the truth or not. And so this is a great ability to have in a lot of areas of your life. So in a relationship, obviously you're gonna be able to weed out cheaters and liars and stuff like that, and you're not gonna need any proof. Most empaths we just know in our gut, so it's like, I know it, you don't have to tell me, and keep it moving. In businesses, it'll help you because you can see the outcome of most scenarios. Let's say you might be up for a promotion or something. You're gonna know by talking to an individual that proposes a business plan or a promotion or something. You're gonna sense that vibe, and you're gonna know if that's a good move to make or not. Again, because you will have that ability to know if someone's telling you the truth, lying to you, or whatever the case may be. So it's an amazing ability to have. And if you have it, and then you have it, so that's the thing. You can't guess. I know I can call bullshit a mile away. You won't even deal with that stuff. You literally won't have tolerance for any of that crap. You won't have tolerance for people that are narcissistic. You won't have tolerance for liars and cheaters and all that good stuff. You won't, because again, you can see it a mile away. The only drawback to that ability is that you can come off a little like a know-it-all. You can come off a little bit short with people. You can, stuck up. People are gonna misjudge you. Absolutely. If you're an empath, people are gonna assume all these things about you that aren't true, and it's just because you're gonna come off a certain way because you have so much knowledge and you're unique in your own way that people are not gonna get it unless you're a fellow empath as well, or someone with abilities. So people are gonna probably say things about you, and you're gonna come off a certain way, but oh well. Who cares, but it's a very good trait to have. I'm sure the FBI uses it, people like that. I'm sure they use empaths when they want to solve big cases and stuff like that as human lie detectors. Or who knows, maybe one invented the lie detector machine because we are creative. Okay, and then the last trait is obviously you're intrigued by all supernatural and you have a knowing ability. Okay, so if you're watching this video, it piqued your interest. I always say, if you're searching for something, it's not a coincidence that you find the topic that you need to find. Most empaths, when they're searching for something, they, again, already know how to go about searching for that thing. And when they find it, they don't need validation. They know in their core, that's the answer I needed. That's the direction I need to go. So, and you're going to be intrigued by the phenomenon because it's in you already. There's like a spark. So you're most likely gonna love those supernatural shows, The Ghost Whisperer, Long Night in the Medium. You're gonna love all those things. You're gonna be fascinated by probably horror and anything supernatural because there's a spark in you that you can identify with. And where most people will enjoy those type of things for entertainment, for you, it's a source of reference, research. It's like by watching those things, it's like you're trying to find the answers to unlock who you are. So if that's you, you're most likely an empath. So there's a lot more traits that I can go into, but I didn't want to make a really long video, and I may make a part 2 to talk about more traits, different traits about empath. But I think you already know. If you're already searching this topic and watching videos like mine, you already know that you are something, okay? If you're leaning towards empath, that's because you can probably identify with a lot of the traits that you've been hearing as you've been doing your research. But if you already know, then the next step is do something about it. Tap into your abilities. Don't just think it's a cool thing like, oh, I think I might be unique. I might be something different. Because what happens with abilities, if you don't use them, is you lose them. So with anything, if you're an athlete and you don't work out every day and you don't do that regime, eventually your skill set is going to diminish. So it's with anything. So if you feel like there's a spark, you feel like all 8 traits are you, you're most likely an empath, 95%. Nobody's 100%, but you have something, most likely that. Then you want to do a little bit more research and tap into it so that you can develop your gift. Because being an empath is an amazing thing. Empaths I believe we're put in this world to help people, because we understand human nature and we understand people at a different level than most. We can see things past the surface value. We're needed in a lot of environments. Like, you're gonna excel at work because you should get into jobs that help who you are. So like counseling, mediation, stuff like that. You should make your own business, because you're gonna flourish because you're so creative that you can figure out how you gotta go about it. Do consultations, help other people develop, or start a group of empaths. But do something, reach out. Don't let your ability, dwindle, and don't discredit yourself. Don't think like, I'm just normal. We all are special. Honestly, we all have some sort of ability. We all come source. We all come from God. Okay, so you just have to, if you really want to, figure out what's your mission here in the world, and don't be afraid of who you are or who you can become. Tap into that. You won't regret it. You'll find people or go ahead and find people that will support you in your journey, and that's it. And you have to contribute. So if you have a gift, pass it along, share it, because otherwise you're going to lose it. So hopefully you guys, those 8 traits resonated with you. And if you are all 8 traits and more, you are definitely an empath. And then stay tuned for my other videos to talk about more traits of an empath, to talk about just different things on this topic. And if there's a certain topic that you guys want me to research and talk about, comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and God bless. Stay healthy, stay happy. Love you all.